You might have heard that malls are dying. Unfortunately, it seems that South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa is kind of immune. And we are in March, which is not really a busy time. Perhaps maybe the vaccines and stimulus is giving us more boost. We can see here the parking certainly has a good amount of cars. And as we walk up to the outdoor cafes, there's a good amount of people. It's important to know that this mall really caters to the top 10% of income earners. Not to mention, has a lot of foreigners, particularly people who are from Asia or just plain Asian Americans. So probably about 50%. Oh, look, there's a bridge that connects to the office buildings. It's certainly a central location. The central location certainly did help, and it's typical for people to travel miles and miles to get to this location. South Coast Plaza opened in the 1960s, became an upscale mall in the late 70s, and expanded a number of times since then. Certainly, it's more stable and has a low vacancy rate compared to many other shopping malls. As we are in Forever 21, we're walking around. Some of the space used to be the Sears. The Sears is now officially gone. And believe it or not, this Forever 21 isn't doing so well either. XXI, I should say. And you can see that there is plenty of social justice, woke, Black Lives Matter apparel everywhere you go. You are seeing this in clothing. You are seeing this promoted all over. And this is simply as a result of the riots, the George Floyd incident, despite the fact that this area has a relatively low Black population. Black history matters. And speaking of riots, the police department did what they could to make sure that the civil unrest that occurred in Santa Ana wasn't going to interfere with the mall. Speaking of race, as you know, in California, it has transformed to more Asian or Hispanic influence. This is a multicultural transformation that we are seeing. And the attractive design really has helped to make sure that it stays afloat, despite the fact that when you have to be indoors, you generally need masks. One of the reasons why I like this place is because of its many top-of-the-line restaurants. And as you can see, people are eating outside, which all helps keep the mall afloat. As you can see, the vacancy rate is pretty low in this mall, despite the fact that so many other malls are suffering heavily. You can see that it's packed in some parts of the mall where you have long lines. And it feels quite of a different world compared to many other places across California and even the world. There is certainly a lot of activities to do, particularly for children, which actually really helps. It makes you think that what are folks really buying? Or are they buying lots of stuff, or are they just trying to get out just to breathe some fresh air? Certainly other parts of California, even high-end centers, are not doing as well, as it has been proven in many shopping centers across Los Angeles have a very high vacancy rate. It makes you want to ask, so much for social distancing. As we're moving along Bloomingdales, which formerly was a Robinson's May, it's perhaps one of the most busiest department stores in the entire complex. Despite that, it makes you wonder, where are people getting this money or perhaps credit to spend this way? Now, I can tell you one reason why this store is more successful than others is because of its design. I love the checkerboard tile. It looks certainly bright. It can certainly teach a lot of other places. Looking ahead, I can tell you that, yeah, this complex can suffer quite a bit, although not as bad. I can see this area becoming more multi-use, converted into residential, hotels. other different types of activities. Parking is perhaps going to be converted into something else as more rideshare and autonomous vehicles come along. And this is certainly can have an impact on the housing costs across Southern California, this type of trend. Now, keep in mind, though, a lot of these stores are being afloat because of these low interest rates and these credit cards, or perhaps some people are experiencing increasing income, increasing investments, certainly people like myself who've benefited from the stock market. But other than that, we're going to see a lot of changes into land use in the coming years, and perhaps these areas can be converted into some of it indoor agriculture. You never know. But as far as I know, these areas do somewhat remind me of an indoor facility or shopping mall in Las Vegas. As for myself, I usually like to come here in the holidays because, as you can see in front of you, is where they put in the Christmas tree. And I've been on dates in this mall before, going out to restaurants. But normally what I like to do, especially in the summertime, is go in the Fashion Island during the day. And then in the night, especially on a Saturday, I go to Irvine Spectrum. You can see the good amount of traffic, not super busy and not dead, obviously, and all of the long lines. It makes you want to ask, like, why would you wait in these super long lines for what? Just to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars extra just to boost your status? And considering the fact a lot of these goods you can buy them online. But is it really worth it? What our society has really come to? Don't get me wrong, I like some luxury goods, and I do like to design luxury homes and buildings, but I don't let them consume me and take over my whole life. It is getting to the point where the media is hyping up this too excessively. Now we're heading to the Nordstrom, and as you can see, a pretty nice interior, good amount of crowds, and yeah, you have a good amount of people waiting outside, despite the fact that they have to wear masks, and they're willing to do what they can to access these goods. So much for social distancing. So much for social distancing. And as you know, just like Forever 21, they're promoting this woke, social justice warrior, anti-white stance of Black History Month, Black Pride, Black culture. We support diversity. Yeah, just trying to get people guilty. And sadly, this is really targeting young adult women. It's really, really getting out of hand. As you can see, we're walking towards these more high-end stores and another long lines. And I believe some of these high-end stores are actually 2 stories as well. And so much for social distancing and all this time for a designer-priced item in line. One of the things I like about this indoor complex is its elevator. It looks pretty nice. It takes you up to a 3rd level of the mall, which is something pretty rare, Penthouse Suites, which includes many other high-end retailers. And despite its isolation, it's not doing as well as the 1st and 2nd level ones, but it certainly isn't experiencing vacancy, although we don't know. Many of these suites get a lot of loans, and they probably takes a lot of time to hit their balance sheets, and maybe next year they'll close. We never know. I think what it really is just people really like to walk into a high-end store like it's some kind of museum. They love the design, and it can certainly teach a lot of these mid-level retailers that are really suffering. There are some flaws with the design of this mall. One of the things is that there's too many staircases that you have to go up and down. It can get pretty discomforting for a lot of people who walk around the mall. Not to mention, there is a lack of natural light. The design of this store is pretty nice. I think I saw a similar one in Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. I am certainly also not a fan of the H-shaped layout of the entire complex, which means on the corner edges, they could get a lack of mall foot traffic. Now, I remember coming here to this Rolex store several years ago, and I was looking at those $14,000 watches, and I remember, ooh, I just profited enough in the stock market to buy one of those. Now, I guess I'm wondering how many of those watches can I actually buy now? Now, we're in the Macy store, actually one of the largest in the country, believe it or not, and it's certainly doing better and looks more attractive than many other Macy's department stores I've been. By the way, my first job I've ever had was in the Macy's in Mission Viejo. So we're walking out into the corridor, and it's starting to get not as busy as it used to be. And like I've told you before about this H-shaped layout, so one corner end is certainly missing out. It's kind of hidden. We're walking into the Saks Fifth Avenue, and this is one of the problems. It's kind of isolated. It's kind of hidden. And it is unfortunately not doing as well in terms of traffic as compared to the other department stores. Maybe perhaps a lot of people don't want to spend too much money for designer goods. And keep in mind, though, there was a Saks Fifth Avenue in Mission Viejo. Now, if you overlook at the parking lots on the west end of the mall, you can see they're pretty full, and it's not really easy to find a parking space. Not to mention the fact that the parking spaces are pretty tight, if you ask me. So we're going to be going over this pedestrian bridge, and I can tell you this, I'm certainly not a fan of a pedestrian bridge where you have to walk a lot of feet to get to another component of the shopping complex. And just like we expected, it's not as busy as the other side of the mall. It's 3 levels. You can see that there's certainly some activities going on people can do. There's a pavilion. Now, as we go on to the bottom level, you can see that there is a long line. Can you guys guess what store it is? I think you can pretty much understand that it's one of the most popular stores in America. Parking lot in and around of the complex, I can see that being converted and possibly buildings facing the avenues. If you guys like this video, please share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.